Max Verstappen earns $70 million a year. The car he's driving costs $12 million. He is, in cold accounting terms, more valuable than the machine. Red Bull thinks they're getting him cheap. 2 weeks ago, the FIA rewrote the engine rules of the entire sport because this one man said he might leave. So today, we're going to do the math that proves a $70 million driver is the best deal in Formula One. Let's get into it. To understand what's happening, you have to understand one number: $215 million. That's the maximum a Formula One team is allowed to spend in 2026, up from $135 million last year. Every wing, every wind tunnel hour, every mechanic's salary has to fit inside that box. It's the most aggressive financial straitjacket in elite sport. But there's an exemption, and it's not subtle. Driver salaries are not in the cap. Neither are the salaries of the 3 highest paid people on the team. Think about that for a second. The FIA, the same regulator that controls every screw on the car, looked at driver pay and said, "This one we're not touching." Why? Because they're not treating drivers as a cost. They're treating them as a separate asset class, the kind of asset where the more you spend, the more you make. Which raises the question, what exactly is a driver financially? Because if he's not a cost on the balance sheet, what is he? A top driver delivers 4 things, and I'm going to walk you through each one with the actual numbers. Number 1, media exposure. Every other Sunday, Formula One gets $70 million live viewers, but it happens 24 times a year, a total cumulative audience of 1.83 billion in 2025. For sponsors, that means logos on a winning car get screen time worth a fortune. Here's the math. Independent valuations estimate that Max Verstappen alone delivers between $200 million and $300 million in direct media value per year to Red Bull and its partners. $200 million for one driver's brand exposure. And remember, he costs $70 million. And honestly, that's the smallest line item we're going to look at. Number 2, performance ROI. Formula One pays out a prize pool of roughly $1.4 billion every season. Win the Constructors' Championship and you take home around $150 million. Finish 10th and you're looking at about $60 million. That's nearly $100 million gap, purely based on driver performance. Every single position you climb in the standings is worth between $9 million and $11 million. So when Red Bull pays Verstappen $70 million and he delivers 2 extra constructors' positions over what a midfield driver would, that's a $100 million right there. The salary just paid for itself twice, and that still isn't the biggest reason. Number 3, sponsorship premium. This is where things get really interesting. Red Bull's title sponsorship deal with Oracle, an estimated $100 million per year. That deal exists because they have Verstappen. Industry data shows that having a championship-winning driver increases a team's total sponsorship value by 30 to 50%. So if you take a midfield team's sponsorship pool, call it $80 million to $100 million, and put a champion in the seat, you're not adding $1 million here, $2 million there. You're adding $30 to $50 million in sponsor revenue per year from the same logos, just with a better driver in the cockpit. And here's the part that surprises people. The sponsors aren't being generous, they're paying market price, because a winning driver delivers more impressions, more headlines, more association with victory. They're literally buying performance. Here's how the contracts actually work. When a title sponsor signs with a top team, the deal is benchmarked against finish positions. Miss the podium consistently, the rate card drops. Win a championship, automatic renewal at a premium. Red Bull's Oracle deal reportedly includes performance bonuses tied directly to Verstappen's race results. So the sponsor isn't just paying for a logo on a car, they're paying for a guaranteed association with winning, which means the sponsor's contract and the driver's contract are financially linked. Remove the driver. The sponsor deal reprices immediately. That's not a salary, that's a collateralized asset. And number 4, the one that makes everything else look small: brand asset conversion. In 2004, Red Bull bought the Jaguar racing team. Total acquisition cost? $1. They took over the operation, kept the staff, repainted the cars. 22 years later, Red Bull as a company is worth over $20 billion. They rely heavily on sports, events, and owned media rather than conventional ads. Their marketing strategy is Formula One, and the human face of that strategy is Max Verstappen. So when accountants at Red Bull look at his salary line, $70 million, they're not comparing it to other employee costs. They're comparing it to what Coca-Cola spends on advertising, which is over $5 billion a year. Suddenly, $70 million for the world's most marketable athlete doesn't look expensive. It looks like the cheapest piece of marketing on the planet. Here's the simplest way to see it. An F1 driver isn't an employee. He's a moving billboard with a 100% performance guarantee. Imagine you could hire one human being who delivers $250 million worth of advertising every single year? Who also wins you championship money on top? Who raises the price every other sponsor pays you? And who, if he wins, makes your team itself appreciate in value by hundreds of millions? McLaren, the team, is currently valued at $4.1 billion. 10 years ago, they were worth a fraction of that. One of the big reasons their valuation exploded? Drivers who win. That's what $70 million buys. The driver isn't the expense. The driver is the product. Let's actually do the math. The Red Bull Verstappen P&L simplified but real. Cost, Verstappen's salary plus bonuses, roughly $81 million. Revenue line 1, constructor's position uplift, conservative estimate, $50 million. Revenue line 2, sponsorship premium driven by him being champion. Oracle alone is a $100 million contract. Verstappen makes that contract possible. Attribute $120 million. Revenue line 3, direct media value to Red Bull, GmbH, the energy drink company, $200 minimum. Net return on Max Verstappen, roughly $290 million a year. From a salary of $70 million, that's a 300% return on a human being. And this isn't a Red Bull anomaly. Look at McLaren. In 2023, they were a mid-table team. They signed Lando Norris to a long-term deal, reportedly $39.5 million per year, including bonuses. 2 years later, McLaren won the 2025 Constructors' Championship. Their team valuation jumped to $4.1 billion, a potential 500% increase in franchise value in 24 months. Norris didn't just win races. He and the success of the Netflix show Drive to Survive unlocked a valuation multiplier that no amount of aerodynamic development could have delivered. The driver wasn't the cost, he was the catalyst. And remember, that's just the conservative version. Now zoom out. In 2001, Niki Lauda was running Jaguar Racing as CEO. His salary, $3 million. Today, the entry-level rookie on the grid, someone who has never won a race in Formula One, earns between $500,000 and $1 million in base pay. And the reigning champion earns $70 million plus $11 million in bonuses. The market didn't go crazy. The math finally caught up. Drivers were always undervalued. Formula One just figured out the formula. And here's how I know this isn't slowing down. Just weeks ago, April 20th, 2026, the FIA rewrote the engine regulations of Formula One mid-season. Rule changes to qualifying, to race deployment, to wet conditions, to race starts. Why? Because their superstars warning about Frankenstein cars became a mathematical reality the FIA couldn't ignore. Verstappen led the charge as the loudest critic, but the FIA ultimately folded because every engine manufacturer warned that the 2026 cars would literally run out of juice on tracks like Monza, and the most powerful regulator in motorsport rewrote the rulebook. But this isn't new. In 2005, the Grand Prix Drivers Association threatened to boycott the United States Grand Prix over tire safety. 6 teams raced, 7 withdrew. Formula One suffered its worst PR crisis in a decade. The FIA changed the rules within weeks. 20 years later, nothing structural has changed, except the stakes are higher. Verstappen now generates more revenue for the sport than any single circuit on the calendar. The Bahrain Grand Prix earns Formula One roughly $55 million a year. Verstappen generates $200 million in brand value. The sport knows exactly which one it cannot replace. That is what driver value looks like in real life. It's not just a salary. It's the power to bend the entire sport around your preferences. The FIA's own director, Nicholas Tumbazis, just said this week that Formula One cannot be hostage to manufacturers. Notice what he didn't say. He didn't say F1 cannot be hostage to drivers, because in 2026, quietly, totally, that's exactly what it is. Verstappen's contract ends in 2028. Audi joins next year. Cadillac follows. 11 teams will be hunting maybe 5 drivers worth chasing. The first $100 million driver's salary isn't a question of if, it's a question of when, because the math will keep proving the same thing. In Formula One, the driver isn't the cost. The driver is the cheapest part of the machine.